Pennsylvania with the attempted assassination of Donald Trump in Butler, and again with the arson attack on Governor Josh Shapiro's home on Passover with his family sleeping upstairs, and again in Minnesota with the murder of House Speaker Emerita Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their dog in their home, and now again in Utah Valley University. We must condemn political violence in all its form, in all its twisted motivations and perverse ideologies. We must instead commit ourselves to civic engagement, education, commit ourselves to decency and dignity and the truth for the good of this nation, our neighbors, our families, and most especially our children. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Utah seek recognition?
Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 9 days ago in my district, a loving husband and father of 2 children, a public figure who debated vigorously conservative values, and a representative of free speech was assassinated by a deranged coward who felt that violence was the only way to deal with voices that he opposed. Mr. Speaker, from Charlie Kirk's example, I've learned that we should live boldly, without fear. We should address and confront the cowards of the world who will oppose with violence those that seek to destroy free speech. I've also learned from Charlie Kirk that we should debate vigorously, that we have opinions, and in this hall, this sacred hall, we can debate those opinions with respect and vigor. And Mr. Speaker, I've also learned that we should love completely. Charlie Kirk never degraded an individual that he debated. He always approached them with respect, and in an intent with a loving approach, tried to push forward his views and offer them as an alternative to those that debated him. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to point out that a widow and 2 amazing children are now left without a husband and a father. And to Eric and those children, I'll just say that God has a special place in his heart for the widows of the world. Since ancient times, the widow of Zarephath with Elijah, the mite that the widow cast into the temple treasury, as well as Jesus Christ's own mother, Mary, a widow, whom Jesus, on the cross, while he suffered and died for all mankind, offered that widow, his mother, to his most beloved apostle to take care of for the rest of her life and make sure that she was cared for. Eric, I'll just say to you and your children, God has a special place in his heart for the widows, for the orphans, and you also have a special place not only in my heart, but in the hearts of millions as you suffer through the loss of your husband, as well as the father of your children. Mr. Speaker, I'm inspired by Charlie Kirk and his example, and the fact that his life now transcends not only his life and his message, but he stands for something more important now, which is freedom of speech, a constitutional privilege that our nation will fight vigorously to protect. And I join with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle to shun and eschew violence and to pursue freedom of speech through the rest of my days. Mr. Speaker, thank you for this time, and God bless America, Charlie Kirk, and his widow as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Does the gentleman yield back? For what purpose does the gentleman from Rhode Island seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for the 43rd time today to call on the Trump administration to restore life-saving food aid for starving children around the world. Adhesion Nutrition, an organization in my district in North Kingstown, Rhode Island, manufactures Plumpy Nut, a nutritional supplement that is needed to get starving children back to health. Because when kids are starving, their organs break down and they cannot digest conventional food. Millions of lives have been saved by this product, and now there are thousands of boxes sitting in a warehouse in Rhode Island because the Trump administration has stopped this program. They continue to promise that they're going to bring it back online. Over and over again, they have said that this program, they've even named the organization in my district, they have said that it will continue. But it's been 9 months, and we are still waiting. We're about to debate and vote on a budget. What is the purpose of passing a budget if the administration will just ignore it? I have spoken on this floor about the humanitarian necessity to restore this program, the national security necessity to restore this program, but it is a constitutional necessity as well, because the legislative branch has the authority to pass budgets and the executive must execute on them. I will continue to speak on this floor every day until this program is restored, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor the life and legacy of my dear friend and brother in Christ, Dr. John Thomas, a devoted husband, father, and community leader who dedicated his life to serving his neighbors in West Texas and those around the world. Dr. Thomas was a skilled surgeon, but his true calling was healing hearts and lifting souls. In 1999, he founded Operation Hope, a nonprofit that deployed teams of healthcare professionals to underserved areas across the globe. His faith was his compass, Mr. Speaker, as he lived the words of Jesus to love thy neighbor and to do unto the least of these. Through his tireless medical missions, disaster relief efforts, and unwavering advocacy for the sanctity of life. To Carrie and Andrew and the entire Thomas family, our hearts and prayers are with you. And I can assure you that Dr. Thomas's light will continue to shine through the countless lives he touched, and especially and most of all, in you, Carrie, and in his beloved son, Andrew. May God comfort you, and I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to share concerns I've heard from people back home. I've traveled across eastern North Carolina, and residents, they've pulled me aside, they've texted our office, they've called, emailed, and many conveyed the same concern about rural health care. We've already seen the closure of Martin General Hospital. We're working hard to reopen it as a rural emergency hospital. Eastern North Carolinians face some of the greatest health care disparities in our state. Nearly 70,000 in my district rely on the Affordable Care Act premium tax credits. People in rural America are struggling. Many are trying to do everything just to make ends meet while raising children. Every time it seems like we take one step forward, we're taking 2 or 3 backward. No matter if it's healthcare, trade, infrastructure, Congress must not leave rural America behind. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Wisconsin seek recognition?
I'd like to make a unanimous request to speak for 1 minute, to revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
It seems hard to believe that it's not even 10 days since Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Of course, we all know why he was assassinated. He was assassinated in part because he stood by our Constitution and believed in the limited government that our forefathers wanted. But of course, he was also killed for his Christianity. He was really far more of I've come to realize he was far more of a religious leader than he was a political leader. We have to now follow what he would have wanted had he survived. And I think that's 2 things. First of all, in America right now, church attendance was down. We can all be wonderful Christians without going to church, but it's a bad sign that church attendance was going down. Let us all redouble our efforts to support our local churches, look for Bible-believing churches, as Charlie Kirk wanted, and hopefully they will grow and thrive. And in Congress, let's try to get back one more time to the limited government that our Constitution so clearly demanded. We'll stop asking the federal government to add another program after program after program, but instead have the type of government that encourages self-reliance and strong families. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia seek recognition? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to celebrate El Salvador's Independence Day, a day marking the end of Spanish colonial rule 204 years ago. And this week, Salvadorians across the globe celebrated with music, parades, and cultural traditions. I celebrated with food. And I'm honored to represent a vibrant and growing Salvadoran community in Virginia. So, Unión, Libertad, and Dios, happy Independence Day to El Salvador. I also rise today to express deep concern over the recent reports of violence against minority communities, including Hindus in Bangladesh. And in the aftermath of Bangladesh's change in government, we've heard, including from my constituents, accounts of looting and vandalism of homes and damages to religious sites like temples. And these acts represent a pattern of violence against communities around the world. And while we continue to work towards stability in places like Bangladesh, we simply have to acknowledge what's going on and can't turn a blind eye to it. Thank you, and I yield back.
The chair lays before the House the communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir. Following my appointment to the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, I hereby resign from the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, effective today. Signed sincerely, Maxwell Alejandro Frost, Member of Congress.
Without objection, the resignation is accepted. For what purpose does the gentleman from Oklahoma seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Resolution 722, I call up the bill H.R. 5371, the Continuing Appropriations and Extensions Act of 2026, and ask for its immediate consideration in the House.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
H.R. 5371, a bill making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
Pursuant to House Resolution 722, the bill is considered read. The bill shall be debated for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee of Appropriations and the respective designees. The gentleman from Oklahoma, Mr. Cole, and the gentlelady from Connecticut, Ms. DeLauro, will each control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Oklahoma.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the measure under consideration.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume. I rise today in support of H.R. 5371, the Continuing Appropriations and Extension Act of 2026. This Congress has a fundamental responsibility to fund the government and keep it open and serving the American people. It's a duty I take seriously and one that I've worked diligently to lead on. Over the past year, the House Appropriations Committee has acted to fulfill our fiscal year 2026 responsibilities. Constraints and challenges didn't stop us from doing the hard work, line by line, to uphold physical discipline and effective governance. I'm proud to say our markup process delivered all 12 regular appropriations bills out of committee. We've also passed 3 of these bills across the floor, representing more than 60% of overall discretionary spending. That momentum has continued with our move to conference on our first 3-bill package, covering military construction and Veterans Affairs, agriculture, and the legislative branch bills. This marks the first conference on major appropriations legislation in close to a decade, and it's a critical step for this institution for restoring regular order. We are certainly moving forward productively, and a bipartisan, bicameral agreement is firmly within our grasp. We just need more time to sustain negotiations and complete our work. That's why we're here today, Mr. Speaker. The continuing resolution before us is simple. It extends funding until November 21st. It's a clean, short-term stopgap that protects the FY26 progress we've made and allows the appropriations process to advance toward full-year bills. It allows us to return the appropriations process to regular order where it should be. This is the responsible path. I want to remind my friends on the other side of the aisle what this measure is. It's a clean CR that keeps the lights on for the American people while we finish our work. It contains no poison pills or partisan riders. It provides essential security measures for all 3 branches of government, and it's a short extension, just 7 weeks. By continuing our government, by keeping our government funded, it protects our military and defense needs, supports our veterans, and sustains critical services for our constituents, from roads, parks, and water projects to infrastructure, research, and job training. This tailored, straightforward approach is exactly what Democrats previously asked for. Now they're rejecting it to manufacture a partisan fight over provisions totally unrelated to appropriations. Let me be very clear. A shutdown would do nothing to help our work on full-year bills or to support the American people. So if you want stability for the American people, if you want time for negotiations in good faith, and if you want regular order, you'll support this CR. Any other vote would be reckless, not just for both parties, but for the entire nation. I've said this previously, but it remains relevant today. Republicans and Democrats are more effective when they negotiate rather than provoke partisan confrontations. And the country is better off when Republicans and Democrats actually work together. Let's do that now. We must act today for our country, for our national security, and for our constituents. I hope that all will join me in keeping the government open and serving the American people. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Thank you. Again, Republicans have chosen a partisan route. In essence, this was the negotiation around the continuing resolution. There was a consensus that it should have been a bipartisan negotiation. That consensus was abrogated. So again, Republicans choose a partisan route. They would rather shut down the government than sit down and talk with Democrats about lowering costs for millions of Americans, preventing people from getting kicked off of their health care, and stopping President Trump and Budget Director Roosevelt from stealing from our communities and from our constituents. Democrats will not support the partisan Republican spending bill because it continues to gut health care of the American people. We are now 9 months into this administration, and the cost of living crisis has only gotten worse. Americans are struggling with the rising costs for everyday necessities. They live paycheck to paycheck. And instead of lowering prices, President Trump and Republicans passed a bill to strip health care coverage from more than 15 million people, threaten Medicare benefits owed to America's seniors, and slash nutrition benefits for working families, which will cause an additional 1 million kids to go hungry. They did this to pass trillions of dollars in tax cuts for big corporations and for billionaires. And they add $4 trillion to the national debt over the next 10 years. Republicans' funding bills are cut from the same cloth. They help billionaires and big corporations grow their power, raise prices on the backs of the middle class and the working class. But what is coming out of the White House is even worse. President Trump's administration, led by Russ Vought, is unlawfully stealing funds that Democrats and Republicans passed into law. Yes, the agreements that we have reached over the years, Democrats, Republicans, House, and Senate have said yes, they've been signed into law, and now an unelected official, Russ Vought, is stealing that money and using it for what purposes we don't even know. This administration continues to freeze, to terminate, and cancel $410 billion. It's in commitments to families, to farmers, to children, to small businesses and communities in every part of our country. Billions of these commitments will soon be lost forever if Congress refuses to rein in this administration's illegal actions. As much as $5 billion for the National Institutes of Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will be wasted. Money promised to help farmers and ranchers drive advancements in agriculture is at risk. Over $1 billion in nonprofit security grants and homeland security grants that keep our communities safe may disappear, and hundreds of millions of dollars in resources to help Americans deal with the increased cost of housing will evaporate. Put simply, This White House seeks to undo any agreement made by Congress. Russ Vought wants a shutdown, and House Republican leadership is handing it to him on a silver platter. He wants the confusion so he can keep stealing from our communities without accountability. These are not normal times. We are not considering this funding during normal circumstances. A vote for this bill is a vote for the status quo, but now is the time to stand up to the theft and disregard for the middle class, the working class, and vulnerable Americans. Now is the time to prevent the health care crisis and to lower costs. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle would say the health care costs are not germane to this bill. Well, take a look at your continuing resolution. 67 of the 91 pages of that resolution deal with health care issues, whether they are health care extenders or whether they are health care for veterans. So it is absolutely appropriate that we talk about how the administration has gutted health care, caused a health care crisis, increasing costs for people. Now is the time to put an end to the Trump administration's corruptions that has hardworking Americans are paying for. Democrats want to lower costs, deliver critical services to all Americans, and that can be achieved through the continuing resolution that Senator Patty Murray and I introduced yesterday. It cannot be achieved through a Republican shutdown. This partisan bill reflects a broken political system. Democrats want to protect the millions of working Americans who will be forced to choose between paying for food or their health care, or the cancer patients and people struggling with chronic disease who will have to choose between having health care coverage at all or keeping a roof over their family's head. But the Republican majority ignores the democratically elected representatives for half of the country to appease their leader. Let us hope the majority does not drive us straight to a Republican shutdown. But if they do shut the government down, I have no doubt the American people will know who is to blame. Vote no on this bill that fails to address the needs of Americans. Join Democrats at the table. Thank you, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to my very good friend, the gentleman from Missouri, and a distinguished member of the Appropriations Committee, Mr. Alford.
The gentleman from Missouri is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Chairman Cole. Thank you to our ranking member for your leadership as we move towards regular order in the appropriations process. And I appreciate the ranking member's passion because of this issue, but we are not here today, Mr. Speaker, to talk about Russ Vought. We're here to talk about keeping the government open and avoiding a Schumer shutdown. And that is why I rise today in strong support of this short-term CR, the continuing resolution. This CR will ensure the federal government remains open and working for our constituents. It ensures that our troops get paid on time and that our veterans continue getting the health care they need and other benefits that they have earned. It also ensures the Trump administration can continue its work to secure our border, secure our communities from violent crime, and secure a stronger economy. Under the leadership of Chairman Cole, we have passed all 12 spending bills out of committee on a condensed timeline. And for the first time in years, regular appropriation bills are now headed to conference committee, showing that appropriators are engaged in good faith bipartisan, bicameral negotiations. Keeping our government open and working for the American people should not be a partisan issue, but it appears our Democrat colleagues want to make it one. And as you'll see throughout this debate today, Democrats' proposals is full of partisan priorities that would explode the federal debt by $1.5 trillion. Let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, if our Democrat colleagues vote against this clean CR to keep our government open, they will own the shutdown. This will be a Schumer shutdown. The media will not be able to spin it. The American people will see straight through their gaslighting and political posturing to the contrary. That is why, Mr. Speaker, I urge my colleagues to support the continuing resolution and keep our government open. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized. The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
I just would let the gentleman from Missouri understand that without the increase in the premium subsidies that were in the ACA that have been cut back, in his district, the premiums will go up $760 for folks, and 265,000, almost 266,000 people will lose their health care. Now I want to yield 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Florida, the distinguished ranking member of the Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Subcommittee, Ms. Wasserman Schultz.
The gentlelady from Florida is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the gentlelady for yielding. I rise to object to this Republican funding scam that simply continues the relentless financial pain America's families, seniors, and businesses face right now. And the reason I object so strenuously is because it absolutely does not have to be this way. Democrats have a funding proposal that cancels cruel cuts, lowers costs, and saves Americans' health care coverage. Our plan prevents 24 million Americans from enduring a massive 93% spike in their health care premium costs. How could any Republican vote for a funding bill with that kind of financial sledgehammer hanging over your constituents' heads? But Democrats' plan values families, not billionaires and big corporations. It prevents nursing homes from closing. It ensures 15 million Americans don't lose health coverage. Republicans refuse to sit down and figure this out, just like every family does at their kitchen table each week. Republicans are choosing to go it alone, no matter the consequences. So what Democrats will not do is support a partisan spending bill that guts health care for the American people. We will not support a plan that lets Trump freeze funds promised to our communities and hold up life-saving medical research, including for kids with cancer. Democrats will never support that. What we will support is our plan, which saves a family of 4 earning $64,000 a year from seeing their annual health care premiums go up by $2,571, or 197%. Democrats will support permanently extending health insurance tax credits to keep coverage affordable. What we will not do is make this Republican-created health care coverage crisis worse. We need to pass a budget that doesn't force Americans to raid their 401k, cancel vacations, or go to the pawn shop just to pay for skyrocketing premiums. In my state alone, more than 4 million people will feel the financial crunch from these higher premium costs, and they'll feel it each and every month. A quarter of the Americans facing higher premiums have a chronic illness they're managing, and these price spikes will also put 1.6 million children at risk of losing essential health care. How can any Republican claim to be a champion of small businesses and entrepreneurs when 3.3 million small business owners and self-employed workers would see premiums skyrocket? That will cripple startups and handcuff mom and pop shops across America. Budgets reflect values and priorities, and Republicans chose a spending plan that guts health care and lavishes the wealthy in big corporations. And that's the Republicans' choice that they must live with. But Democrats stand ready to pass a funding bill that cancels the cruel Republican spending cuts, lowers costs for everyone, and saves the health care coverage of millions of Americans. That's what Democrats fight for, and we will not support this Republican spending plan that drags families further into the health care crisis created by Republicans. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlelady yields. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Reserve.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized to control the time for the majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I now yield 2 minutes to the distinguished gentlelady from California, Ms. Kim.
The gentlelady from California is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, history has shown that government shutdowns accomplish nothing. The last major shutdown cost our economy $11 billion, delayed wages for federal workers, and disrupted businesses that hardworking Americans rely on. This isn't a partisan issue. Keeping our government open means protecting service members, honoring veterans, supporting mothers and infants, keeping our borders secure, and helping small businesses access the loans they need. As we approach the government funding deadline, I support this clean, short-term continuing resolution. It prevents a costly shutdown, preserves progress on appropriations, and gives Congress time to finish the job responsibly. We were not sent here to play political games with people's livelihoods. A shutdown doesn't score points. It only hurts those we serve. So I urge my colleagues to do the right thing and put the American people first and support this measure. Thank you, and I yield back.
The gentlelady yields back. The gentleman from Missouri is recognized.
Reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
I remind the gentlelady that in her state, the premiums will go up $3,300, and in her district, premiums will go up $3,300. In her state, 2.4 million people will lose their health care. I yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from New Jersey, the distinguished ranking member of the Energy and Commerce Committee, Mr. Pallone.
The gentleman is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank our ranking member, Mr. Laura. I'm opposed to this bill. President Trump and congressional Republicans have created a health care crisis and waged a war on the American health care system. On the 4th of July, President Trump celebrated our nation's birthday by signing Republicans' big ugly bill into law, cutting more than $1 trillion from our health care system. And you can't cut $1 trillion without creating devastating consequences for our constituents. Their new law will cruelly take health care coverage away from 15 million Americans. And we're already seeing the chaotic impacts of their actions. Just 2 months after enactment of the big ugly bill, we're hearing from hospitals, clinics, and nursing homes across the country that are being forced to close their doors and cut services. St. Mary's Sacred Heart Hospital in Livonia, Georgia, recently announced it will shut down its maternity unit next month, and they pointed to, I quote, recent congressional cuts to Medicaid as the reason for the closure. In rural Virginia, August Medical Group is closing an urgent care and 2 primary care clinics, citing their, quote, ongoing response to Republican health care cuts. And this is only going to get worse. Congressional Republicans are also taking away tax credits that help millions of Americans afford their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act. Thanks to enhanced tax credits included in the Inflation Reduction Act, a record 24 million Americans have coverage through the ACA marketplaces. But Republicans refuse to extend these tax credits for middle-class Americans in their big, ugly bill, and if we don't act now, millions of Americans are going to be hit with huge premiums for the upcoming year. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has estimated that these premium increases will lead to 4.2 million Americans losing their health insurance. Now, Trump and congressional Republicans had no problem giving their billionaire friends tax breaks in their big, ugly bill, but they refused to extend tax credits that make health care more affordable for millions of middle-class families. This is an outrage. We can't allow this to happen. Democrats believe we must address this health care crisis before millions of people lose their health coverage, see their costs spike, and their hospitals close. So I call on my Republican colleagues to join us in ending the chaos. This has to be addressed in the spending bill. And it doesn't. The Republican spending bill does not address the health care crisis, and for that reason, I am opposed. I yield back.
The gentleman yields. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Reserve.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 2 minutes to my very good friend, the distinguished gentleman and chairman of the Budget Committee from Texas, Mr. Arrington.
The gentleman from Texas is recognized.
I thank the chairman and commend Mr. Cole for his commitment to controlling cost in the stewardship of taxpayers' hard-earned treasure. Meanwhile, my Democrat colleagues are demanding an audacious $1.4 trillion in new spending, or they will shut the people's government down. Well, Chairman Cole, we should let the people know what that $1.4 trillion includes. It would extend a failed and what they called temporary COVID tax credit that went to people making $600,000 because there was no income limit. CBO said there were 4.5 million phantom enrollees. That's fraud in Plainview, Texas. CMS said 2.3 million people with this temporary COVID tax credit who were ineligible received the credit, tens of billions of dollars in waste and fraud, and this is what they demand, or they will shut the government down. They also want to remove safeguards that we recently put in important safety net programs. Safeguards against what? People who are ineligible for receiving these social services, people who are in this country illegally from receiving taxpayer-funded services, and people who are able to work but refuse to work. That is the sum of the people who should not receive the hard-earned taxpayer-funded services. And those are the measures to root out waste, fraud, and abuse that they want to rip away so that we waste more of our tax dollars and continue on this slippery slope of bankrupting our country. Mr. Speaker, this is the party whose failed policies of tax, regulation, borrowing, and unbridled spending gave us the worst cost of living crisis in the last half century. I urge my colleagues to reject their demands, support Chairman Cole and the appropriators in this CR so we can work responsibly to fund the people's government and avoid a costly and disruptive shutdown. I yield.
The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
I reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Speaker, I remind the gentleman from Texas that in his district, premiums will go up $430, so he'll have to explain that to his constituents. And in the state, 1.6 million people will be jettisoned from their health care. Explain that as well. I now yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Massachusetts, the distinguished ranking member of the Ways and Means Committee, Mr. Neal.
The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized for 3 minutes.
Ask for permission to revise and extend my remarks. So let's look at the numbers. 15 million people are about to be kicked off their health insurance because of the big, ugly law. 24 million Americans are going to pay higher premiums. In some cases, up to 75%. I'm in opposition to this Republican plan because they'd rather shut down the government than bring costs down for the American people. Everything costs more. Unemployment's on the rise, and it's only going to get worse because of their health care premiums rising by up to 75%. So let's say it again. Republicans would rather shut down the government than bring down health care costs. 2 months ago, they found it possible to permanently extend tax cuts for the super wealthy, the biggest companies that were all scheduled to expire. They've turned their backs on the American people, but they found time once again to cut taxes for people at the very top. My friend, the budget chairman, he said before Democrats have added to the debt. Is there anybody on the side right now that's willing to stand up and say that in 2017 they didn't borrow $2.3 trillion for their tax cut? That's what I thought. Is there anybody willing to say that they didn't add $4 trillion to the debt with the last measure they passed called the Big Ugly Bill? Trillions of dollars being borrowed for a tax cut, and the bill is so popular, what they did with that legislation, it's so popular at the White House right now, they're trying to figure out how to rebrand it. We've already branded it. It's the Big Ugly Bill that is going to penalize middle-class Americans. The highest health care premium increases in 15 years. Prices are up, unemployment's rising, and the Trump economy with their tariffs are failing the American people who need it most. This morning, Democrats are not going to be party to these attacks on the American people. We have a simple plan here. Let's extend these health care benefits. We can move on to the next legislative business in terms of the regular order. The American people know this morning Democrats have their backs, and we intend to defend their health insurance plans. And with that, I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. The gentlelady is recognized.
I reserve.
The gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to my very good friend, the distinguished gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Moore.
The gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, this debate about keeping the government open is not just an academic debate. I've been here about 8 months. Before that, for about 10 years, I had the opportunity to write budgets for our state of North Carolina and our state legislature, where we showed how you can lower taxes, cut regulations, and turn things around, which we've done successfully. So I'm new in this game here in Washington. But I want to talk about something that's very important to my home state, and that is disaster relief after Hurricane Helene, which has been almost a year ago when that happened, and the ongoing efforts that are happening right now. And I want my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to hear this very loudly and clearly. If the government is shut down, those relief efforts, which are vital to my state, vital to other states, including California, that are dealing with cleaning up from disasters,
vital to making sure that those things continue. If we shut this government down, those efforts will stop. That is malpractice. We cannot do that. And I'm reminded, and I'm going to give a shout out to Chairman Cole here. Back before I was a member last year, we came up with a delegation from North Carolina. We met with the chairman, other members of the Appropriation Committee, and very proud of the way that they, on a bipartisan basis, funded that initial tranche of relief for our state. And then we've done additional work. But we need to make sure that the
gentleman is recognized.
We need to continue the efforts to make sure that we rebuild in Western North Carolina and any other part of the country that's been impacted. So my request to my friends on the other side of the aisle, there's time to debate all of these other issues as this appropriations bill passes through the process. But this CR simply gives additional time to work through this and will make sure that these disaster relief efforts continue unabated. This is important. We owe it to the people of my district, of my state, and frankly to everyone in this nation. With that, I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
I reserve, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
I want to remind the gentleman from North Carolina that I think his constituents are just going to be very unhappy about an additional almost $600 in increased costs for their health care premiums, and almost 652,000 people in his state will be jettisoned from health care. Mr. Speaker, this bill is less than the Americans deserve, and we need to address the cost of living crisis, ensure this country has a high quality of affordable health care. The Republican proposal before us today does neither of those things. For this reason, at the appropriate time, I will offer a motion to recommit this bill back to committee. If the House rules permitted, I would have offered the motion with an important amendment to this bill. My amendment would allow the House to vote on the funding proposal that myself and Senator Murray introduced in each chamber yesterday and would gain overwhelmingly bipartisan support. I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the text of this amendment, and I hope my colleagues will join me in voting for the motion to recommit. I reserve.
Without objection, the gentlelady reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
I thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
He's not here, so just, I guess.
Mr. Speaker, I will reserve, but I am also prepared to close.
The gentlelady is prepared to close and reserves. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I advise my friend, the gentlelady, I'm also prepared to close.
The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Let me just recall what I said early on in my comments. My Republican colleagues have once again chosen a bipartisan route. There was a consensus amongst the people who, in fact, deal with the appropriations process on both sides of the aisle. And we achieved consensus on the three bills in terms of the allocations and the top lines, and we said, yes, we are going to move forward in a bipartisan way to deal with those bills. There was also the consensus on a bipartisan CR. Lo and behold, no conversations with Democrats on a continuing resolution. As a matter of fact, if I can quote the President of the United States, he said, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time to talk with Jeffries and Schumer. The President said that. In addition to which, he has told Republicans, he said, pass this Republican continuing resolution, jam it down the Democrats' throat. That's the direction that the President would like to take us. He would like to take us to a shutdown, and the Republican leadership and this House has taken this partisan route. Democrats have been overwhelmingly interested in sitting down and talking about how we keep the government open. The fact of the matter is, the issues that are on the table here in this effort that are critically important, yes, are health care issues. And what are we fighting against? We're not going to support a partisan Republican bill that guts health care for the American people. And when they continue to want to say that the issues that we bring up are not germane to this bill, it really is a fallacy. That is the fallacy, because 67 pages of the 91 in this continuing resolution deal with health care extensions one way or another, whether they're for veterans, whether they're for others. That is what's in there. So it's absolutely germane that what we talk about is how they have slashed Medicaid of the largest cut in history, and 15 million people are going to lose their health care, and how they raise the premiums for copays and deductibles. And I am happy to share with all of my colleagues, Democrats and Republicans, how much increase that is going to cost to their constituents in their district. And it's also going to tell them how many people in their state are going to lose that health care coverage that they have. It is in black and white, and it's there, and the people of their districts and their communities are going to know all about it. They set in motion $536 billion in cuts to Medicare. And, as the ranking member on the Labor, Health, Human Services, and Education Subcommittee, I have watched them shut off the funding for medical research, including for kids with cancer, vaccines, and public health. This is a partisan Republican bill that guts health care, increases health care costs for the American people, allows the continuation of an unelected official to steal the money that both Democrats and Republicans in this House and in the Senate have moved forward on to meet the needs of the American people. That has to stop. And that is, in fact, the reason why Democrats are opposed to this continuing resolution. And they are foursquare for keeping the government open, but dealing with the needs of the American people. I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from New York, the distinguished Democratic leader, Mr. Jeffries.
The gentleman from New York is recognized for 1 minute.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the distinguished gentlelady from the great state of Connecticut for her leadership and for yielding as we debate this partisan, reckless Republican spending bill that continues to gut the health care of the American people. I rise today in strong opposition to legislation that continues the relentless Republican attack on the health care of the American people. What we've seen throughout this year, notwithstanding Republican promises to lower the high cost of living, which Republicans promised to do on day one of the Trump presidency, but we know costs aren't going down. Here in the United States of America, they continue to go up. Inflation is going up. Life is becoming more expensive for the American people, in part as a result of Donald Trump's tariffs that House Republicans continue to rubber stamp. Democrats recognize that the cost of living in the United States of America is far too high. We have to fix our broken healthcare system, and we also have to clean up corruption in this town so that we don't have a government of the elites, by the elites, and for the elites. We deserve a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That's why we oppose this reckless Republican spending bill. Republican assault on health care has been relentless. Largest cut to Medicaid in American history. Millions of Americans losing their health care as a result of the Republican one big ugly bill. Hungry children have had food stolen from their mouths as a result of the one big ugly bill. That is going to make them vulnerable to sickness, illness, and disease. And all of this was done so that Republicans could reward your billionaire donors with massive tax breaks. In addition, to the unprecedented assault on Medicaid as a result of the Republican one big ugly bill, the American people are confronting the possibility that Medicare could be cut by $536 billion this year, the largest cut to Medicare in American history, as a result of what Republicans have done as part of their relentless assault on the health care of the American people. Premiums, copays, and deductibles are skyrocketing. Over the next few weeks, tens of millions of Americans are about to confront dramatic increases in their health care. Thousands of dollars, in some cases, tens of thousands of dollars in additional expense per year because of what Republicans have unleashed on the American people as part of this unprecedented assault on health care. Heard earlier today some of my colleagues on the Republican side saying that the health care issue was not germane, that we're raising issues around Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act, or increases in premiums, copays, and deductibles, or the fact that Republicans are dramatically ending medical research in the United States of America, including as it relates to research for children with cancer. Who does that? And the fact that all across this country, as a result of actions Republicans have taken and are continuing to take in targeting the health care of the American people, hospitals, nursing homes, and community-based health clinics are closing, including in all of your districts and throughout rural America. So don't come and argue to us that these issues are not germane. Let me tell you what's germane. Protecting the health care of the American people is germane, and that's what Democrats are doing in fighting back against this partisan Republican spending bill. There is an alternative. It's been introduced by Senator Patty Murray and Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro, supported by Democrats in the House and the Senate. It keeps the government open. It allows for a bipartisan negotiation as it relates to a spending bill that would actually meet the needs of the American people in terms of their health, their public safety, and their economic well-being, to actually try and make progress on lowering costs in America, which you promised to do as Republicans, Mr. Speaker, and failed to do. That's the legislation that we should be taking up. Republicans know that this partisan, reckless, dirty spending bill is dead on arrival in the United States Senate. And yet Republicans continue to refuse to even discuss protecting the health care of the American people in the face of a relentless Republican assault that will actually harm people and cause Americans, children, families, seniors, veterans to lose their lives. We have a choice to make here in the House of Representatives. It appears that Republicans believe that health care should simply be a privilege available only to the wealthy, the well-off, and the well-connected. We strongly disagree. Access to high-quality, affordable health care is a right, and Democrats are on the floor of the House of Representatives vindicating that right at all times. And that's why we're voting no. Some have suggested that our principled opposition to the partisan Republican spending bill may result in government funding lapsing. But we've heard all year how Republicans have a mandate, how Republicans have the presidency, how Republicans control the House, how Republicans control the Senate. Well, if that in fact is the case, as is the moment, temporarily, Republicans will own a government shutdown. Period. full stop. It's the Republican shutdown. We're fighting for the health care of the American people. We will do that today. We will do that tomorrow. We will do that next week. We will do that next month. We will do that this year. We will do that next year. We will do that at all times. We're standing up for the health care of the American people. Cancel the cuts. Lower the costs. Save your health care.
The gentleman yields. The gentlelady from Connecticut is recognized.
Speaker, I yield back.
The gentlelady yields. The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That was quite an unconventional close. Normally, when you close, you're the last speaker. So I regret that, but I'm happy to always hear from my good friend, the distinguished minority leader. But that's an unusual move. And I would just ask my friends in the future, the gentleman has the right to speak, and the 1 minute is the 1 minute, and I respect that. Just please be here in time to do it before we close. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield myself the balance of my time.
The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order.
The gentleman from Oklahoma is recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I won't take the 18 minutes that I have. I don't think I need it because the facts here are pretty clear. At the beginning of this process, I was asked to produce a clean bill for a limited period of time by my colleagues on the other side. That's what they asked to do, so that we could continue negotiations on a package of 3 bills, which are going well quite now and are happening. Then, all of a sudden, we have extraneous demands for things unrelated to the day-to-day operation of the government. With all due respect, and I think additional negotiations on those topics could happen. I think the majority leader of the United States Senate actually signaled they could happen, but not attached to this particular bill. This is what my friends on the other side asked for, a clean bill, no partisan riders, no tricks, no things, and give it to us for a short period. I was told by my distinguished friend in the United States Senate, Senator Murray, oh no, we don't want to go all the way to January like the Trump administration does. We just want to go into November. I said, great, I actually agree with you. I think we should keep this thing moving. But the thing to keep moving is the appropriations bills that fund the government. Now, if my friends want to shut the government down, they have every right to do so. You might do it today. You certainly have the power of the United States Senate to do that. But rest assured, you're doing exactly what Republicans did in 2013, and it did not work for them. They tied something unrelated to spending, Obamacare, and shut down the government. That was the wrong thing to do then. I said it was the wrong thing to do, and it was. You're doing the same thing now. It's nothing else. Now, if you want to have negotiations on these other topics, they're important topics, and they ought to be negotiated. But what's happening is not some cut that's in this bill. We're not cutting anything. A measure that my friends, and was passed on a bipartisan basis, as I recall, ran out. It's running out. Okay, we should probably talk about that. You don't do it on a CR. This is a manufactured crisis. You got exactly what you asked for. You asked for a clean CR. You got a clean CR. You asked for a limited amount of time. You got a limited amount of time. You asked for negotiations on the remaining 3 bills. Those negotiations are underway, and that's what this committee should be focused on. And that's all we're doing today, Mr. Speaker, is buying the time that we all need to finish a process that we're all trying to restore and we think is broken. Now we have people dropping things out of the blue that were never intended to be a CR to try and create a sense of crisis and drama. If you think that moves us in the right direction, I disagree. I think that moves us in the wrong direction. I think keeping the government open for the American people and negotiating in good faith on bills where we are close to getting done, and moving it through regular order is the right thing to do. I think provoking a government shutdown is the wrong thing to do. If you disagree, vote no. Take your privilege and shut down the government of the United States, something you have repeatedly condemned Republicans for when they did it, and rightly condemned them. But you're doing the same thing, and you know it. You absolutely know it. So, you want to shut down the government today? Fine. We'll give the United States Senate the same opportunity if we vote to keep it open. And if they want to shut it down, that's up to them. But we are at the table, ready to negotiate. We're negotiating on the 3 bills we agreed to negotiate on right now. That's the work of the Appropriations Committee, not this. And that's what the CR would deal with. So, my friends, when I give you what you asked for and you decide that's not acceptable and you change it afterwards and you drop unrelated items in, that's up to you. But let's not have any pretense about what's going on here. It's political theater. Political theater, that's all it is. But you're doing it at the risk of shutting down the government of the United States. So, Mr. Speaker, I am very proud to vote for this CR. I'm proud to work with my friends on the bills we were supposed to work with. I hope we can reach agreement and bring those bills to the floor in short order. And with that, I urge a yes on the motion in front of us, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields. Members will be reminded to address the remarks to the chair. All time for debate has expired, and pursuant to House Resolution 722, the previous question is ordered on the bill. The question is on engrossment and a third reading of the bill. All of those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. Third reading.
A bill making continuing appropriations and extensions for fiscal year 2026 and for other purposes.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Connecticut seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I have a motion to recommit at the desk.
The clerk will report the motion.
Mr. Laurel of Connecticut moves to recommit the bill H.R. 5371 to the Committee on Appropriations.
Pursuant to Clause 2 Bravo of Rule 19, the previous question is ordered on the motion to recommit. The question is on the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. In opinion of the chair, the noes have it. The motion is not agreed to.
Mr. Speaker,
the gentlelady from Connecticut is
on that I
recognized.
request the yeas and nays.
The gentlelady requests that yeas and nays are requested. Those in favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. A sufficient number of those having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Members will record their vote by electronic device. Pursuant to Clause 9 of Rule 20, this 15-minute vote on the motion to recommit will be followed by 5-minute votes on passage of the bill, if ordered, and adoption of the House Resolution 719. This is a 15-minute vote.
On this bill, the yeas are 210, the nays are 218. The motion is not adopted. The question is on the passage of the bill. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The ayes have it. The bill is passed without objection. Motion.
Mr. Speaker, on that
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Connecticut seek recognition?
Speaker, on that I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays have been requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having arisen. The yeas and nays are ordered. Members record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote. On this vote, the yeas are 217, the nays are 212. The bill is passed. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the unfinished business is on the vote and the adoption. Resolution 719, on which the yeas and nays are orders. The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 719, resolution honoring the life and legacy of Charles Charlie James Kirk.
Questions on the adoption resolution. Members will record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.